probably the most surprising trade, maybe it wasn't, maybe the Hopkins one was more, but Tom Brady leaving the New England Patriots after 20 seasons and coming over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think anyone saw this coming except for Alex, who called it on one of our quarterback free agency shows, saying, hey, look, they have the weapons. If Brady wants to come in and play just like he did, kind of in his prime with tons of weapons around him, that 2010s Brady, this could be a good landing spot. And you look at Bruce Arians as kind of the anti-Belichick. We could see Tom Brady maybe find a sweet spot here as he kind of ends his career in Tampa Bay. But what's your outlook fantasy-wise? Certainly, things are going to change from Jameis Winston over to Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think this was kind of the narrative of it's the classic New England rumors again. Tom Brady is looking elsewhere, but everyone's kind of thinking like there's no way Tom Brady's actually leaving. But this one was different. He signed the 2-year, $50 million deal with the Buccaneers. It's fully guaranteed. The Bucs, after going 7-9 last season, they have a lot of really good pieces on that team. Adding Brady, adding a guy who's not going to throw 30 interceptions, I could bet about anything on that. They're going to be a real contender this year, and that's going to be a really fun division with the Buccaneers, the Saints, the Panthers now with Teddy Bridgewater, and the Falcons. So that's going to be super competitive. But from a fantasy perspective, speaking about Tom Brady himself, I'm moving him up into the QB 10 to 12 range. He's a guy that you could take in the middle rounds of a draft, have as kind of your week in, week out starter, and pair him with a deeper sleeper like a Daniel Jones or a Drew Lock or someone like that, and kind of roll out that 1-2 punch and see if you got the upside in a Drew Lock or a Daniel Jones, but then still have Brady for a margin of safety at the quarterback position. So I'm much more interested in Brady now with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and even O.J. Howard to throw the ball to this season. And something I didn't realize about Brady last year, it seemed like the volume was down and the efficiency was down and everything was down. He still had over 600 attempts last season. Absolutely crazy. And his completion percentage is almost the lowest of his career. People are saying, Jameis Winston, they had so much passing volume, like they won't pass that much with Tom Brady. Tom Brady only threw the ball 13 times less than Jameis Winston last season, and that was in New England. Now you pair him with Bruce Arians. I don't think the volume's going to go anywhere, and maybe, Brady's not going to sling it down the field as much as Jameis Winston did, but he's still going to be passing the ball, and I can guarantee you this season his completion percentage is going to be higher than Jameis Winston's was last year. So I think now you give him Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and a tight end. And all those guys shouldn't – some people are saying maybe Mike Evans sees a little bit of a decrease because Brady's not just going to chuck it down the field to him. Maybe you could make an argument for that, but I think he's still in consideration for a wide receiver 1. I think Chris Godwin has a similar outlook. Brady's going to be more accurate. Godwin runs a lot of those shorter and underneath routes but can still get open deep. And then a guy I really want to keep an eye on in this offense is O.J. Howard. People have kind of left O.J. Howard for dead after the terrible, terrible things he did to people in 2019. But we know what Brady has done with tight ends in the past. He had that incredible connection with Gronk. He, even used Aaron Hernandez back in the day really well. He's always liked, the slot receivers and the tight ends and the running backs to throw it to. And maybe that's a little bit of the system that Bill Belichick runs. But just knowing that Brady's kind of played that way his whole career, you've got to think O.J. Howard sees an uptick. You've got to think that Ronald Jones sees an uptick receiving the ball out of the backfield. So for me, those are two of the smaller pieces that I think people aren't really talking about as much. I think Godwin and Evans, you can pretty much keep them the same. But O.J. Howard is worth a pick to me in the double-digit rounds. He could be a top 10 tight end this year. He's got the skill set and the athleticism to do it. And then Ronald Jones with Peyton Barber, a free agent and most likely leaving town. I don't know that they're going to bring anyone else in. So it's going to be Ronald Jones and Agumbawale in the backfield. And you've got to think Ronald Jones is going to catch more passes. He's going to get more carries. So for me, those are the two pieces that I really like on this offense after this move. And I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be a force to be reckoned with in 2020.
I agree 100%. I do feel like there's a huge range of outcomes on this offense. I'm sure beat reporters and Double Move Sports are going to be monitoring this offense like a hawk leading up to this season to really see what they're going to do in terms of what playmakers they want to give the ball to more. What does their game plan look like? What does their scheme look like? What kind of personnel are they running? There's really two directions. If you think about it like a north and south kind of magnetic pull, right? There's two directions you can go. One's kind of the Brady, what we've seen from him with a huge sample size with Belichick, and maybe that's more of Belichick's scheme and not a Brady thing. But let's assume that is the case there. We have the Brady side, and then on the other side of the spectrum, we have the Arians side. And I kind of have two different ways things could shake out. I think everybody will most likely take a bump in that offense just because you're not going to have Brady turning the ball over as much. I still think there's going to be plenty of volume like you alluded to. On the Arians side, we have Godwin. He'll still be fantastic. We saw him have huge success in 2019 in the Bruce Arians scheme in the first year. Evans will stay great. He's been, since he's come into the league, a top wide receiver. You look at Josh Gordon for the Patriots. A lot of people saying, oh, Brady can't throw it deep anymore. He's getting too old. He can't sling it like he used to. You look at some of those games with Josh Gordon, last year, even over the last 3 or 4 years, he was still completely fine for fantasy and for the Patriots offense. And I expect Evans to be way more productive than Josh Gordon. And then also with Arians, I expect dump-offs to the running back. So Jones, like you said, increase in pass volume. But Arians really doesn't look to the tight end that much. And so this is something that we need to monitor. And then on the Brady side, I see a huge bump to O.J. Howard, huge bump to even Cameron Brate. He's still useful at times. We saw him as a streamer 2 years ago that you could plug in. I think won some people some championships in fantasy. On the Brady side, I also see a huge bump to Ronald Jones. I think Jones gets a bump either way. Evans will be a little bit more boom-bust in a Brady-style offense, like Josh Gordon. And then Godwin becomes the new Julian Edelman, right? Like a underneath guy, check-down guy, running these slants and 5-yard out routes. I think Godwin becomes the clear 1A now to Evans 1B, but both certainly could finish as wide receiver ones just like they did in 2019. So anything else to add about this offense? I'm extremely excited to see what they can do.
Nothing else to add. Only other thing to say is I love how, you kind of split that out. There's two ranges of outcomes, the Arians outcome and the Brady outcome. And the one guy who really seems like he's going to benefit either way is Ronald Jones. So definitely someone to keep an eye on. I know we've talked about him in past podcasts, things like that, this offseason as a sleeper for 2020. This only continues to increase and build on that narrative. So Ronald Jones, keep an eye on him. Hopefully he doesn't rise too high up draft boards come draft season, and you can get him for a good value.
Yeah, more than likely, what's actually going to happen in reality is we're going to land somewhere in the middle between the Brady and Arians side.